No, not Rumble.
No, but
I thought
still.
there's Rumble and no Mastodon's not even around anymore. I thought Mastodon was over or like shut down.
Basically, there are a bunch of Twitter alternatives. I'll tell you about it after the show, okay?
Yep. And speaking of the show, we are live. Hey everybody, you are watching and listening to the We Are Rizin podcast. This is your host, Andrew Benjamin. I am joined by my very jovial co-host, Jay Christian Gary from Focus Fights.
Hey y'all, how's it going? And we are joined by our favorite long-suffering resident of Cleveland, Ohio. This is Michael Soltsets. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How are you?
Great. We're doing all right.
Things are good. You are our resident, B-show expert with us.
Apparently,
Mike.
Newly christened.
But B-show Rizin 43 was not. I think one of the best Rizin shows of all time. Mike, what were your thoughts overall for Rizin 43 from their debut in Sapporo?
Incredible show. It ended up being a really well-matched card. I thought a couple of new potential stars were born, like Joji Goto. That honestly shocked me that he beat Gerdem the way he did.
Mm-hmm.
To talk about that, just all the finishes, as you said. Good attendance too, considering all the issues with the bear and all that stuff.
Chris, did you hear about the thing about there was apparently a bear sighting near the arena, so they upped security?
Yeah.
No, I did not hear anything about a Kuma sighting.
And just like not a type of pride bear, because it was Pride Month technically when the show went down. Yes, no, there was an actual Kuma. I forgot what type of bear they call what type. Brown bear? Is it brown bear?
Yeah, I think it was a brown bear. And then they closed the park at one point, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm.
Bears are a common animal up in North Hokkaido, and also they do sell bear meats at stores there, and it is delicious. I can confirm.
Hey, that's you.
And the first thing that came to mind is having watched Cocaine Bear. I'm just happy nothing like that happened.
How funny would it have been? There's a Cocaine Bear sighting right outside the Sapporo Arena. What I forgot the name of the arena.
The Hokkaido Ice, the Hokkaido Helm Ice Arena.
Yeah. Thank God no bears attacked. The only attacking that was going on was the amount of finishes on this card.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things. Sorry, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go ahead and explain it here. The Rizin 43 card happened this past Friday or Saturday, depending on your time zone, at the Makumanai Sekisui Helm Ice Arena in Sapporo, Hokkaido, Japan. There were 13 fights, 17 fights if you count the prelims, but who really watches those? But there were really 13 fights on the card. And oh, by the way, if you're counting the prelims, there were 12 finishes?
Are you counting the no contests, or are you not?
I'm not counting the no contests. And there were actually 13. Yeah, there were actually 13 finishes on the card in total. 3 on the prelims, 10 on the main card, but it was all fantastic, especially the prelims, which all them fights ended in the first round. But still, though, do y'all want to talk about the elephant in the room, the no contest, before we get to all the meat and potatoes of these finishes?
Yeah. There's two no contests. Ironically, the first and the last fights, which I find pretty funny. Let's talk about obviously the last fights that happened, which was Kleber Koike not successfully defended the title against Chihiro Suzuki. Well, I guess technically defending it, but then vacating it.
Let's just say this, Andrew. He physically defended the Rizin Featherweight Championship of the World by submitting Chihiro Suzuki via armbar, 2 minutes 59 seconds of round 1. However, because he was 600 grams or about a half a pound shy of being overweight, the title was vacated and the fight was turned to a no contest on the spot.
Yeah. So, yeah. Mike. So I guess there's quite a few things to unpack. I mean, here's the thing. This is the second time that Koike has missed weight. He missed weight back in KSW against Arthur Solinski. This was only 0.88 kilos, I think it was. So wasn't a lot. So this isn't like coming like, 3 or 4, 5 pounds overweight. Where like, okay, he just clearly didn't give a shit. A damn.
Like Joshua Franco did against Kazuto Ioka last week.
Sorry, what happened? Oh, yes, the Ioka. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
6 pounds, I think it was.
Yeah, that's when you just clearly don't care. So I don't know what happened on Kleber's end that caused this to not make weight, and it's his first time also in Rizin not making weight. Unfortunately, it was for his first title shot, title defense, I should say. So I mean, first of all, the idea of a no contest has come up. I did see that a few people talk about it. I know that Ensign Inoue on Yamato Damashi was saying that he thinks that it shouldn't be ruled no contest. It doesn't make sense. James Goiter, also on Twitter, he's a follower of ours, a longtime follower of ours, someone who I infinitely respect as well, says that shouldn't be ruled a no contest. Mark Pickering, I think, has said that anytime there's that there's a missed weight, the fight shouldn't even go on. So I want to ask you, Mike, what do you think about this idea about ruling a fight a no contest if the fighter doesn't make weight?
I've thought about this.
In Japan.
Well, being a boxing fan, I know that if you miss weight, you get stripped of the title, but you can still win the fight. The title becomes vacant. I agree with that part. Stripping, obviously they didn't make weight. As far as the no contest goes,
yeah, I think we all agree stripping you have to do because
right. And especially considering some of those fighters are given every opportunity to shed excess weight anyway. But I personally don't have a problem with it, because if you don't make the weight, you don't make the effort to make the weight, or regardless of the reason, I don't think you should be rewarded. That's my personal opinion. I can see why people would disagree with that, but that's just my personal opinion.
Chris, your thoughts on ruling missed weights as a no contest? Just also let you know as well. This isn't just a Rizin thing. I believe Deep, Shuto, I believe almost all the Japanese promotions follow that model, that sort of mantra. I don't know if one does, but
no, they just change the rules whenever it suits them.
Good point. Yeah, Chris, what do you think about that fighters who miss weight and they win, it's a no contest on the record?
Well, I mean, first of all, you got to realize when it comes down to Rizin, and especially with this card, this is about the 6th or 7th time. I know there were 2 no contests on this card. We'll get to the other one momentarily, but there have been 7 no contests in Rizin in their short 7.5-year history. But if you think about it, when it comes down to a title fight, I would basically say there's no excuse, but there has to be a set limit for a title fight, especially when it comes down to, if the fighter cannot make weight, there has to be a middle ground. There has to be something like, you can't weigh especially in the featherweight division, you can't weigh no heavier than 147 at least.
What do you mean, as far as weight to put on after the weigh-in?
Well, I see what Chris. I apologize for interrupting you, because I see what you're saying, but keep in mind this was also a title fight. A title fight is supposed to be specific. If it's I get what you're saying, like if it's a non-title fight or whatever, you can do maybe you can propose a catch weight. I know that happens at Bellator. that's happened in Bellator.
Contract
But,
weight fights.
yeah, contract.
But still.
Yeah, but you can't really do contract weight fight for it defeats the purpose of doing it for a championship fights.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, true. But then again, when it comes down to this, I mean, I can't really say there's no excuse. He should have made weight and blah, blah, blah. But when you give the fact that there was also a no contest on this card, and there was a no contest in that country that weekend with Joshua Franco Kazuto Ioka fight, I mean, you gotta realize
it wasn't a no contest. I thought Ioka won that fight, and
okay,
and
but
in boxing, no,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Andrew or Christian. I'm sorry, but in boxing, okay. even if the fighter who's overweight and wins, that's still a win. They just don't get the title. As far as I know.
But still, though, when it comes down to, no contest, that 0.6 pounds or 400 grams, whatever you want to call it, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what Joshua Franco basically weighed in at for his fight against Ioka, coming in 6 pounds overweight, a whole weight division in boxing.
Mm-hmm. Or that you can remember when Rumble Johnson used to miss weight. Remember when he missed weight at like welterweight like 2 or 3 times?
And you know what? Recent example: William Nightmare Knight in the UFC missing weight by a whole division. No, actually coming in at 212 pounds or something for a 205-pound fight. But still, though, I wouldn't say there's no excuse because of the fact that Clever Koike Herbst. Yes, I'm going to say his actual last name, but still, though, even though Clever came in at 0.6 pounds overweight, the dude still fought like a champion. Unlike previous rising fighters, in the case of him winning, at least he won't get banished from the promotion because of it. And if you think about it, Clever's going to have another chance to redeem himself. Possibly in a fight with Mikaru, maybe in a fight with, possibly in a fight with Mikaru. Let's be real, because that's going to be the next fight to happen anyways. And I think that Chihiro Suzuki is just, going to have to wait his turn, but still don't. There should be, I'm not saying that there's no excuse for weight loss. I'm just saying that this weight loss in particular is kind of meaningless.
Here's the example I like to always point out with somebody who always or seemingly missed weight all the time. John Lineker in UFC when he was at flyweight. Even when he was at bantamweight, I think he missed weight like once or twice. But when he was at flyweight, so he won 2 fights and that he had missed weight for, and then eventually was part of a flyweight title eliminator against Ali Bagautinov. So essentially, he was still that's the problem I have, is that if the problem is that you in the UFC, and as far as I know, Bellator, even if you miss weight, you win, you still get to move up the rankings. You still get rewarded for your for missing weight. I have a problem with that, because to me it should be what the contract states, that if you're coming, that the fight's at 125, 126, whatever, that's what you're coming at. And if you don't abide by the contract, to me, your part of the bargain of the agreement is null and void, because you didn't agree. You're not doing what the contract says that you're going to do. So I don't see why. So that's why I have no problem with no contest at all. And in fact, I really wish Bellator and UFC unified rules, whatever, would adopt that, because I think, listen, you'll still, no matter what, you'll still financially get a penalty, no matter which promotion it is, I think UFC or unified rules now, it's like, depending on how many pounds you miss or something, they skew it to that. You also presumably are, there was no indication that Clever was in any sort of physical duress, because as you can see from the way he won, he clearly had no issues. But a lot of times fighters will come in like worse because they tried to cut weight and they just failed miserably. But there needs to be that extra step that says, listen, that you cannot be rewarded in any way for not abiding by the contract. And I have no problem with the no contest at all. Now, if behind the scenes you then like, oh, you reward the contract or whatever, but that's between the two fighters. And I'm pretty sure, Hiroki, not Hiroki, but Chihiro Suzuki was given the option to maybe not take the fights. That's like pretty standard for most promotions, I believe. But he took the fight, obviously. And you can't work out a catch weight or a contract weight because it's a title fight. Doesn't make sense. Let's see. Oh, Kobe has a point. The number one priority for promotion is a fight still going forward. In the UFC, if you take away the possibility of the win, 50% of the purse, the fighter will pull out. Well, that seems to be true, but also that's still rewarding people who are gaming the system. And I got no problem, with the extra set of punishment that Rizin and other Japanese promotions do when it comes to missing weights. And that's why you think, Chris, you said that there's like been 6 or 7 times this has happened, and yet Rizin's not been around for a long time, but it's still under 10 times, under a dozen that people have missed weight. So clearly the punishment, I think the punishment of having your fight rule in no contest if you win, I think that puts the extra, because also the other thing as well is that Rizin gives out finishing bonuses as well.
Yeah, they do.
So my guess is also if you finish your opponent, but you miss weights, the fight is still not ruled a no contest. The fight is still ruled a no contest. So therefore you are not awarded a finishing bonus. So that means you miss out on extra money despite winning despite winning. So I think Rizin does it perfectly, and I wish other promotions would adopt it as well. There'd be a lot less gaming the system.
But here's the thing, though. It dates all the way back to 2015 when Felipe Efrain defeated Yuki Montoya. I, again, am surprised that, Kleber Koike's punishment isn't, because you missed weight, you're not going to be fighting in the promotion anymore, which is what a lot of Japanese promotions do. But fortunately for him, he'll have another chance to redeem himself, just like how he did in KSW.
Now, with UFC and Bellator, or I'll say UFC, I don't know about Bellator, but it seems like Bellator, if you miss weight, like about 2 or 3 times, they make you move up. UFC doesn't seem to do that. In fact, and actually, here's the thing. In UFC, if you miss weight, you better win because you're more likely to be cut after one weight miss.
Exactly.
Falling Star says Rizin merging with New Japan. I'm telling you. He's joking. Sorry. Kobe Day says under the JMOC, that's the Japanese MMA commission
official
thing.
Commission.
I think I read the overweight penalty goes to the opponent, so Suzuki receives some nice money. This isn't always the case in the U.S. because it goes to commission. I've read about people missing weight, and then that the portion of the purse goes to the opponents, and then I've heard of what was it? I think it was Tyron Woodley versus Kelvin Gastelum. I think Gastelum missed weight, and then Woodley gave back that percentage of the purse to Gastelum, I believe. Rizin will die.
I think so.
Rizin, now it could be different states, maybe in Las Vegas versus Texas versus New York, it's all different. So, but I thought that is that does happen under unified rules where the opponent gets the percentage of the purse. And Rizin will die says Mike is right. Boxing does it fine. I agree. With that being said, though, gentlemen,
but here's the thing: it's like Paulie Malignaggi once said, "Boxing is full of shit."
Oh yeah. all the sports do are not perfect, but I think this is one thing that Rizin does get. The J Mock and Rizin does perfectly, and most other Japanese promotions does very well.
True. And
so, Mike,
do we want to talk about the other no contest?
In a second, we'll finish up with this, and then
Okay.
So Mike, now we have a vacant Rizin title or Rizin featherweight title. What would you like to see done with to take away the championship from vacant, the current champion?
There's two things you can do. One, you can just declare Bugar Karamov versus Mikuru Asakura at Super Rizin 2 for the vacant title. That's an option. You can debate whether or not Mikuru has a shot. I do, but
he doesn't.
I think he does, but that's a discussion for another day. Or you can just have the winner of that fight, Kleber, on New Year's Eve for the title. I'm trying to think if there's a third option, but those are the two that come to mind.
I knew someone was going to say Mikuru versus Bugar. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Come to think of it, that third option would probably have to go to Chihiro Suzuki, who's getting shit canned and all this.
Well, since he lost, he's going to the back of the line. I know he doesn't officially get the loss, but essentially it was. I mean, he's got work to do, clearly. Good fighter, but he's got to work on his ground game. Simple as that.
I don't think it's a question of working on ground game. I think you could work on your ground game and I said this when Yachi fought Souza. Yachi could have 1,000 years to work on his ground game, and I still think Souza submits him not 100% of the time. I think this is just the same thing with Kleber. Unless you are a veteran of the game like Pitbull, whose striking is on another level than Chihiro's, I think, you gotta find you gotta be prepared to just feel like you're gonna be forced to the ground eventually with Kleber. And I think the same thing with Chihiro. I on Todd Atkins' show, Chris, I remember I did say that if we get the Kleber that fought Pitbull, this would be an easy fight for Suzuki. If we get the fighter that's been dominating Rizin, the Kleber that's been dominating Rizin, it's going to be an easy fight for Kleber. And we clearly got that latter one. It's just that's just how Kleber is. You brought up a good point about Asakura and Vugar, but you see, here's the thing. We got one more Rizin show in September, and I believe the New Year's Eve show. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like you should waste here's the thing. The title fight can be. I think you can say that for New Year's Eve. You've already sold the tickets for Super Rizin 2 have already been sold, or very much close to sold out, except for like VVIP.
Okay.
Seats. So you don't need to sell any more than you've already had. So what would I think could be potentially better is save the vacant title shot for New Year's Eve. Main event, co-main event, depending on, I guess, whatever happens. And I think that Kleber. Now I think Kobe Day says that Kleber wants to fight in fall, so give him a fight in fall in September. But I don't think he should be. I think he needs to earn his way back to a title shot. Same thing with Suzuki. They kind of fallen down the ladder a peg or two, both of them. I think you have the winner of this fight coming up, Vugar and Asakura, face off against Kanehara in the main event. Or co-main event or whatever for the title New Year's Eve. I think that's the way to go. Chris, do you have any thoughts on that? Or do you disagree?
To be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing that fight happen on New Year's Eve, but then again, don't Rizin have a few more opportunities for more shows between Super Rizin and that New Year's Eve show? Or
I think they just have the September show. I think that's all they have. That's all I saw on the calendar.
I'm sure you're going to have like a landmark show at some point in a regional place at some point before.
Well, think of it,
they were thinking about doing a regional show in Azerbaijan or Guam, either one of the two. But still, though, when it comes down to that, I think, let's just say you make the Vugar versus Mikuru fight a number one contenders fight. Obviously, you give, what am I trying to say? You give Kleber an opportunity to redeem himself on one of these smaller shows, probably the landmark show in September or October, depending on the time or depending on the climate and the weather and all that. But still, though, you have that fight culminate on New Year's Eve between a refocused Kleber Koike Herbst versus the winner of Vugar Karamov and Mikuru Asakura.
So actually, I want to correct myself. There is going to be, they have on their calendar so far scheduled September, Saitama, and then October, Dolphins Arena, Nagoya. So,
wow. Really?
So, I mean, Kobe Day saying Kleber wants to fight in the fall, probably on the landmark of Ren. I don't think that fight will happen. I would not. And
I have an idea. How about have him fight Yoshiki Nakahara?
That's fine. I'm fine with that. I'm going through right now, like, so I mean, we'll talk about his. Sorry.
Or how about Kuda Shirakawa?
Ren or
that would be
or Kleber?
No.
Oh, Kleber. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that would be an easy tune-up. That's an easy win for Kleber. Sorry to say.
Kuda win with Ren Hiramoto that'd be a good test for Ren. Have, or since he's coming off a win, why not have no wait, never mind, because Kleber and Hiroaki Suzuki train at Banzai. Never mind.
That's right. Yeah. I'm trying to like go through right now. I don't even know if Shirakawa's even fighting. If Shirakawa's even fighting more. Like, I can't remember the last time he's even fought. I thought he's still injured.
Okay. How about Tetsuya Seki versus
So you see, that's interesting fight. I like that because that would force Kleber to. I think Seki's striking is on point, as we saw from this fight, and that could be an uncomfortable fight for Kleber. That may not be as easy for him to win.
Styles make fights, as Evander Holyfield used to say.
Yeah, that's not impossible. That's a fight that would be, I would look forward to that. I'm trying, I don't know, for shits and giggles, I would love to see like Kleber versus Ivanari. That'd be a hilarious fight, I think. Well, here's the thing. I mean, do you give him a tough fight, Mike?
No.
Or do you give him a tune-up fight? Kleber,
give him a tune-up fight, absolutely.
Okay. What about Sorry,
he's the best fighter. He's the best fighter at 145 they have besides Karamov, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the fight that I would expect for the title. But like I said, I'm not going to count Mikuru out just yet.
So Chris, what about for Chihiro Suzuki? What do you think should be next for Mr. Suzuki?
I mean, he's a dual kickboxing and mixed martial arts star. I mean, and I know that y'all don't want to give him an opportunity to fight for the title again because obviously he got destroyed despite the no contest. But, I mean, do you just keep feeding him jobbers back on the landmark shows, or do you just basically give him another opportunity to redeem himself as well?
Well, I don't think he's really fought any jobbers. I think he's taken fights on short notice. He's taken tough fights, and other than the Soji match, which he got knocked out in, ironically, his first match in Rizin, he's bested the competition that he's been put up against. And I think it's funny. I think he was brought in to lose some of those fights. I think it was quite clear that he was. I think I think Suzuki's, yeah, he's going to be doing some kickboxing maybe after this. I'm pretty sure he wants to get back into Rizin as soon as possible. I still would love to see Chihiro Suzuki versus Hiroaki Suzuki just for shits and giggles because it'd be Suzuki versus Suzuki.
Yeah, and you wouldn't, aside from us, many people wouldn't know who was who.
Yeah, well, it also that'd be an interesting styles fight as well because considering that they're both crossover fighters as well. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Quick question: is Suguru Ni a lightweight?
No, he's featherweight.
Then why not put Chihiro versus Suguru Ni for a comeback fight?
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I think Suguru Ni is on the up and up. We'll definitely talk about him later, but that's not opposed to that fight happening. I think there's a lot of fights you could do, even if you want to do Kubo versus Suzuki, or even Karate Kinoshita and Suzuki. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting fights I think you can do at 145, which I think is the best division in Rizin. So the other thing I also have to I wanted to ask is, so Chris, did I ask you about what you want to do for the featherweight title? You said you wanted this to be Mikuru and Rugar to be number one contender, right?
Who are you talking
Correct.
to me?
Chris, sorry.
Correct.
So then, okay, so whoever wins between that, you said they face Clever in New Year's Eve?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be a better idea rather than just waste everybody's time for the next 6 months?
How about Kanehara?
I think Kanehara's earned the shot, pretty handily considering how he's dominated 145.
Then for September, Andrew, do you put Kanehara versus the winner of Mikuru and Karamov?
Yeah, I definitely do that. Yeah, I think you kind of also have to send a message for Clever missing weight that yes, you may win your tune-up fight, but that doesn't mean you earn your shots right after a tune-up fight. He's gonna have to go the extra step to re-earn that title shot in Rizin, I believe. Falling Star is an interesting question. Who do you feel is the closest Rizin to Conor McGregor in terms of ring wackiness? That how he got so famous throwing a chair at a boss or hitting an old man. Well, the answer is to that is there'd be two answers. Actually, no, I'm going to say one answer. That's Mikuru, due to breaking down.
I'm going to say Ren.
I guess Ren, yeah.
Ren and Mikuru.
I think Mikuru eclipses Ren's famous name.
But those are the two.
Yeah.
Maybe highest, but that's a distant third.
Mm-hmm. And actually, we'll just briefly talk about the first fight, because there was a little interesting story about that, apart from the fact that there was a weight miss as well. So Shoki Hoshikubo, despite winning against Gambare Furukawa, and he apparently said, and this I learned this from Let's Talk JMA with Shu Hirata and our buddy CJ, Charles Jewett from Sogokaku. Apparently his coach / manager, same person, apparently signed him for this kickboxing fight in Rizin without consulting him for the first at all. And apparently coach came to him and said, "Hey, I got you a fight in Rizin." And Hoshikubo was like, I don't have any time to prepare. And so he missed weights. Kind of makes sense. But Mike, this is the first time I've heard this actually said publicly by a fighter and I've heard this happen other times as well, but it's the first time I've heard it publicly. What the fuck? What do you think about that? That like the coach manager just like, oh, hey, I got you a fight in Rizin without even consulting him.
I'm speechless. I don't know why you do that other than being greedy, or thinking that the opponent was a 2-4 41-year-old dude was easy, barely had to train, but still, like you should consult the fighter. Mm-hmm. I would think. That's just baffling to me. That's really all I can say. Like, just God forbid, because if you don't prepare, God forbid your fighter is unprepared, anything can happen. That's way too risky, in my opinion. Just we've seen it just way too many times in combat sports, boxing, MMA. You take fights, you accept short notice, you accept fights on short notice because you think the opponent's a jobber, an easy mark. Anyway. That's why you take it seriously. That's just my opinion.
Chris, your thoughts on this? On Hoshikubo's coach / manager doing this. I'll say to him, not for him.
I mean, I think that's a bit I think that's a bit shady under the table, you know? I think if you want to when it comes down to arrangements like that, you would want to know straight up. You wouldn't want to know right there, front and center, clear as crystal, who you're going to fight or who you're going to be doing business with, on that date or whatever, instead of just being said, hey, we got you a fight, you in? I mean, because you don't want to be told anything at the last minute unless you're adequately prepared for it. Especially considering the fact that this fight between Tsuyoki Hoshikubo versus Gambare Furukawa-kun happened. No, actually, this wasn't the Furukawa-kun fight, right? This was Hoshikubo versus...
No, you're right.
Yeah, that fight that basically happened. I mean, still though, when it came down to this, I didn't know anything about Furukawa-kun. I mean, obviously, I didn't know anything about Tsuyoki Hoshikubo either, other than the fact that he was a Rise veteran, but still though, when it came down to this fight, Tsuyoki Hoshikubo came in a little half-assed. Yeah, he had Kazuyuki Furukawa, aka Gambare Furukawa-kun, dead to rights, beating him up, dominating him, and the judges had the win via unanimous decision in the bag for him. But when it came down to this particular fight, I just think, and here's the parallel when it comes down to the excuse, no excuse thing, as in Clever Koike had a bit of an excuse because he came in at half a pound overweight. As far as Hoshikubo, yeah, your manager did you dirty, but you still had no excuse for coming in like you did, overweight.
I see. I can definitely tell you that this happens much more often in Japanese MMA. I don't know if it happens in American Western MMA. My guess is probably maybe at the lowest level, amateur level, perhaps. But
oh no, I don't think it would happen in amateur MMA. Otherwise, the state athletic commissions would have to deal with the national body.
Not pro, but amateur. You can get away with a lot of stuff in amateur. That's commission because they're amateur for a reason, and a lot of commissions don't oversee amateur events because they're amateur. So,
I mean, not only that, but you got guys basically who have been doing this for most of their life, if not all of their life, facing off against a guy who can't even get on at a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm. And before we're going to go on to the rest of the main card, but Mike, before we do I'll call them the 4 prelims / unofficial prelim kickboxing main fight. I'm curious to know anything you want to say about those 5 fights before we go on to the rest of the meaty card that we had.
Number 1, ridiculous mismatches.
I love them. I love those mismatches. I'm fine with
that. The one with was it Suguru Hayasaka?
Yeah.
And Daiki Maruyama went exactly as you'd expect. Maruyama was winning the striking, but then Hayasaka took him down, choked him out with the arm triangle. Easy. Like, I didn't understand that. The thing that really just, or the Aito, or no, that was on the main card, wasn't it?
No, that's prelim.
If you're referring to Aito Tanimura versus Ryuya Koide, that was the second fight after the no contest.
Okay, yeah, that Aito winning that was a good knockout. I would like to see him again. The one that really I was kind of surprised about Toshiki Watanabe's record, because they had it down as 3-3.
I have no idea where they got that number from. I saw that too, but that's not like, that had to be an error. That had to be. I don't know where they got that number from. I can't figure out anything, because okay, look at this. There's no way you can confuse 20-7-4 with 3-3. Even if you go by his amateur matches, which I'm sure this is not 100% accurate, that's still not even close to like 3-3. So I don't know where that number, that had to be some sort of, if it wasn't an error, I'm just like, okay, I honestly don't know how to explain that.
Right, but even then, it looked like an experienced veteran versus a young fighter. I mean, because the experienced veteran ended up beating him with that knee bar.
Hey, listen, that proves you that soccer kicks don't always work.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, we pretty much seen that happen with the Watanabe Izumi fight. We thought we was gonna get some beautiful violence on display. Instead, Watanabe turned around, proved that he was the more experienced fighter, and just heel hooked Izumi.
Here's the other thing I wanted to bring up about these about some of these fighters overall, not just these prelim fighters, but you have a lot of local Hokkaido people, whether they be, people like Kento Izumi, who's 2-2, or people that are actually just happen to live there, like who's I gonna point out that's from there? Oh, Raiki Endo, who's a professional fighter, fights on Pancreas shows all the time, 15-12. Do you think that some of these people are just going to be relegated to whenever they come to Sapporo, Mike? Or do you think that there's anybody here that's worthy of coming to like their Tokyo Saitama shows? I think that's the other thing we got to consider, because a lot of it seems like Rizin definitely kind of just pinpoints fighters to be for certain, like a lot of those Okinawa fighters we have not seen come to Tokyo shows. With the exception of a few that were already fighting in Tokyo. But do you think any of these prelim fighters are worthy of coming to Saitama / Tokyo?
I mean, if you want to put them on like Toshiki Watanabe, Hayasaka, put them with younger fighters and try and build up records that way on the undercards of like Saitama Super Arena shows, yeah, I don't see why not. Or a prelim kickboxing fight, sure. But the one that I thought the one that really stood out, the one that really stood out to me was can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you. We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Weird. I'm not sure what the deal is, but it would be Joji Goto. He was the one that really stood out.
Gotcha. The other thing also is you brought up a good point about the prelims, and what do you think? I want to ask both of you. I'll start with you, Mike. What do you think about the way that they structure these prelims, where they clearly have I don't want to say no name, but lesser named fighters start off, and it's in contrast to something like UFC. If you remember when UFC would do the TV, the FX prelims, who they would always have main event those? It would be Uriah Faber. It was not a coincidence. Uriah Faber was always on those FX prelims, and he would always get the highest ratings and sometimes have the best fights. So do you like the structure that they put do you think that they should kind of change it up where they put maybe a more well-known name at the beginning of their prelims / YouTube, whatever thing, and then that can, hopefully they put on a good fight, and then that encourages people to buy their show? Or do you like just the way it's currently structured, Mike?
I mean, you can try it. I mean, I don't see it. I like how it's structured currently, but if you think that can add a few extra buys to the show, why not try it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the fighter is very popular in the local area, especially when you go to some of these non-Tokyo prefectures like Hokkaido, like Aichi, like Osaka, so to speak, which is just a stone throw away from Tokyo. I mean, if you go to those non-Tokyo prefectures or non-Tokyo cities, you're going to get a lot of folks that are only popular in their native area, had to bust a lot of tickets just to get into the venue and all that. I think that if you get more of those fighters looking to make a name on those cards, you're going to eventually see them on landmark cards and eventually on these big time Rizin pay-per-views, which, oh, by the way, Andrew, I'm actually looking at I'm looking at the video on my end, and I just gotta ask, on your perspective, do you think that Rizin needs to spend more time putting over international pay-per-view broadcast on Fight rather than thinking about a global expansion? Because Alistair Overeem was over there at Rizin 43 this past weekend, but I don't think that people would get excited just by seeing him if they can't even find out where to watch the show.
Well, you also bring up another good point as well, is that they didn't say anything about Overeem being at the show. So
I mean, all we had pretty much was Beyond Kickboxing. Shout out to Beyond Kickboxing, by the way, putting out a tweet about Overeem's physique. Nobody said anything about Rizin in the comments.
Yeah,
and they basically complained about his physique. But still, though, you wouldn't even know that he was even there if nobody even pointed out about it.
Yeah. Honestly, the 43 show was promoted very horribly. There's nothing about it. If it was promoted great in Japan, they had it free in Japan on YouTube. So if you were smart to not refresh or lose connection when they started the show, you outside Japan, you got to see the entire show for free. So good on you for that. This was, but I really wish this would have been a great way to introduce, new people to come into Rizin. See, like when you have a finish in almost every fight, you're gonna get people interested in your promotion. And then you have Alistair Overeem as well make an appearance, a very skinny Alistair Overeem make an appearance. I think I understand why this show was not promoted, because this was definitely the equivalent of a small regional show for Rizin. So I kind of get it, but it the end result was like one of the best Rizin shows of all time, and then suddenly, I think they could have gleaned off how good this show was to get potentially new fans, especially with two of the knockouts that did go viral, which we'll talk about later. Since we brought up Overeem, I did want to ask, and I think we got you back, Mike. We got you back, Mike. That's okay.
Yeah.
One on Yamato Damashi, Jim Ozeki hypothesized that there could be potentially a match between. He hypothesized a match between Anderson Silva and Alistair Overeem. They're probably the same weight right now. What do you think?
Probably. I mean, come to think of it, if that fight were to happen, and I'm sorry for stepping on your toes when it comes down to that, Michael, but still, though, if this fight were to happen, it would definitely get all the MMA nostalgia critics, raving about it. It'll definitely get all the casual fans raving about it. But as far as the rest of the card is concerned, I mean, you got to have a nice undercard if you're going to even make it, work, so to speak. Now, what do you want to say about that, Michael?
A potential Alistair Overeem Anderson Silva fight.
I presume it'll be either boxing or kickboxing. I don't think it'll be MMA.
No, absolutely not. But if it would be kickboxing, I'd be good with that.
I mean, come to think of it, we've seen crazier shit happen before. I mean, remember Gary Goodridge versus Gegard Mousasi?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was bad. That was really bad.
So yeah, so I presume that he's not going to do any heavy. He does not look to be Uberim anymore. He looks to be off the roids significantly. And if a lot of people don't remember this, but yeah, when Overeem started in MMA, he was a light heavyweight.
Yeah, he was. He was part of the GP in 2003 at light heavy.
He wasn't taking the horse meat until he got to the UFC, or right before he got to the UFC.
On the contrary, he wasn't taking the horse meat until he got to K1.
Yep, when he fought Bader, when he knocked out Bader Hari.
I think it's when he knocked out Bader Hari.
Massive.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe it'll be. Silva did say that he's gonna be fighting in Japan, and he said it's a fight that he's always wanted. Maybe that's the fight that he's always wanted was against Overeem.
The question I have is why isn't be able to afford either of their price tags with actually be able to make money?
Well, dude, they can.
If they can afford to get Manny Pacquiao on the same card if they can afford to get Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather to show up to their shows, I'm pretty sure they can afford to get Overeem and Spider Silva.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the end result for Mayweather is much better than having Mayweather and or Pacquiao on their shows. So we're gonna move on to the co-main, and Yachi 10.0, 11.0, just mow down Zach Zane. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Mike, is Yachi the what's Yachi's status in Rizin now? Is he kind of just like the guy who kills the jobbers coming in, the foreign jobbers coming in? Does he have a chance against top talent anymore, or like what do you think his ceiling's at now?
It's exactly as you said. He just beats foreign jobbers, and he's just a name to bring in for shows. That's pretty much it. He is what he is at this point. That's really all I can say about him.
Oh, I just want to quickly just say, Code May Day said that Overeem is fighting in Glory. Remy Bonjasky, who I think is the isn't he president of Glory, CEO of Glory, something like that, called Rizin after he saw the pick to make sure he didn't sign. Well, whatever. Well, I think we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, going back to Yachi, Chris, pretty open and shut case, as they say in police procedural. It's kind of how we expected all this fight to go. Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, it was pretty obvious that was going to happen, considering the fact that you had a middling of the road, now 15-15 guy facing off against Yachi. There was no chance that Zane, I mean, there wasn't a prayer that he could have recited that Zach Zane was going to get this victory, but still though, when it comes down to Zach Zane, and I'm not basically trying to spite Yusuke Yachi in the slightest. Yeah, he's still going to be that contender to beat either at 145 or 155. He's definitely up there in the conversation for obvious contenders in either the featherweight or lightweight class. Well, mostly lightweight, considering the fact that his featherweight days were a long time ago. But as for Zach Zane, I saw Go Yamamoto Shirobi basically put out the post-fight Rizin press conference tweet, and it basically says that Zach Zane may be getting ready to hang up the gloves. I mean, he was basically crying and complaining. Well, I wouldn't say crying and complaining, but he was basically saying, I've been fighting for 16 years. I know God has blessed me with all this ability and stuff like that, but who would want a middle of the road fighter continuing the fight in the game, so to speak. I mean, you gotta think about this. This dude's been fighting probably since definitely I was in high school, but still though, point of the matter is this guy's been fighting. Zach Zane has been fighting forever. He's been taking L's on the chin forever. But do you think that it's time for him to just have a call to Jesus meeting and, hang the gloves up finally?
Yes.
If you're, yeah, I mean, he's lost his last 6 fights, hasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So,
if in the end it's his decision, but I know, and I still find I'm not so sure why Rizin still found it necessary to bring him over for 2 fights. That obviously we know why, but I just don't see what he brings anymore. That's as simple as that. I can't believe
all he brings in a way is just inspiration not to lose.
Yeah.
I mean inspiration not to give up, so to speak.
I mean, here's the other thing as well. The losses don't so much count in Rizin. They do, but not in the way that the same way the UFC or Bellator does. But if Bob Sapp is an extreme example. If he can still fight after 13 losses and get another chance, it's not the end result of your fight, but it's how you fight. I mean,
you know what? You say Bob Sapp, I'm gonna do you one better. Felony Charles Bennett.
Well, at the time that he got signed to Rizin, he wasn't on that horrible losing streak, if I remember correctly. It was after that I think that he got that horrible losing streak.
How about Shannon Rich?
You know what? Him too.
Listen, I just don't see what he positively brings to a Rizin show. Listen, if he chooses not to fight again and he gets like 3 or 4 wins, he does a Suguru knee thing. Listen, I have no problem bringing him back, but I just don't. It's the problem is that also when you're having a guy like Yachi, who is one of your biggest stars, just basically beating these foreign these I don't want to say low level, but these obviously not as experienced or high level foreign talent, you're giving him false confidence, I think. Because at the press conference, he said he wants to fight on the Super Rizin 2 show, and he wants to fight a Bellator fighter. 155 Bellator fighter. I think probably 9 out of 10 destroy Yachi. Spike Carlisle.
I mean, come to think of it, you pretty much booked his next fight right there.
Yeah. So, if he wants to fight, listen, the whole thing about Tofik not having a fight, you put Tofik against Yachi, Tofik destroys him. I just don't see you're kind of, he has this, this isn't, we have to, he's a showcase fighter just to see, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
At this point, Yachi's a special attraction. Or
he's literally a special attraction. Yeah, he's literally a special attraction without being a freak show fighter, kind of. It's weird. I don't know how to really describe it.
It's too good to be a freak show fighter, but not good enough to be a real contender
anymore. Yeah. And he's I mean, Mike, do you want to see him on the Super Rizin 2 show against a Bellator fighter?
No. No, not at all. I mean, unless it's like a really low-level Bellator fighter, and I'm not 100% sure who would qualify at this point, but...
How about you, Chris? Do you want to see him against a Bellator fighter on Super Rizin 2?
Hell no. I don't think that Yusuke Yachi would even qualify for Super Rizin 2. Because if he were to, it's like you said, if he were to face off against a Bellator fighter, he gets smoked. But then again, let's just look on the plus side here. Yusuke Yachi is still fighting like he's worth the damn. I mean, that much is obvious.
This definitely was the best that he's looked, I think, in a long time. I mean, let's see. I'll throw it to you, Mike. Do you have anybody in mind who you think he would be a good fight for next? If there's anybody you could think of.
Since he won today at Deep, actually, and you want to bring him back, why not put him in with Kimihiro Ito?
I think Ito destroys him. I think he absolutely destroys him. That's I mean,
are you saying that because Kimihiro Ito is better than Yachi, despite Yachi having foreign success?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Also Yachi's chin shot, as well. I think Ito's a much better striker than Yachi. I think puts him down. I think the one fight I will say I'd be okay with, and they had a very close fight the first time they fought when he fought Jiri Ohara. As I shoot this fight away, if you remember that fight, that was a close fight, and I think you could have ruled either way. I think I have no problem doing that fight, or we'll talk about him later. I think Daryl Okoku in MMA could be. I think Yachi could have good success against him.
Oh no!
How about Yachi versus Bay Noah?
You know what? That fight would definitely work way more than Lukoku versus Yachi. Because if you haven't seen Lukoku get wrecked, that was just violence on another level. But one more thing,
and I'm sure Bay Noah's been practicing really hard, or coming off.
I don't know if he has been. I think he's focusing on his comedy career right now.
Okay.
I mean, come to think of it, back when Gerald Harris fought Kazuhiro Muro, what am I trying to say? King Kaz in Dream, he was focusing on his comedy career, and he didn't really seem to mind kicking ass. I'm pretty sure Bay Noah would be the same way. But one more thing I would want to mention about the, Rizin getting foreign talent. There's 5, maybe 6 other names that Rizin got from those Hawaiian tryouts, namely Timothy Tevez and Dustin Kimura. When are we going to see them fight? Because they would probably make a whole lot more of a difference in this promotion than Zach Zane would.
I don't know what's stopping them. What's stopping them from bringing in those people? I don't know if it's visa issues or they want to book them specifically for that Hawaii show that they want to do. I honestly don't know. I don't know. I don't know why they brought Zach Zane all the way from Hawaii to Hokkaido, and not somebody like Dustin Kimura, who I think is still a great fighter, despite not having fought in a long time. The other name, Timothy Tevez, not too familiar with him, but I really don't know what their thought process is.
Come to think of it, you might want to ask Ensign in the way that.
Kobe Day says Bay Noah has been at AKA Cali for weeks. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was just doing his comedy shit. And also Kobe Day says Yachi haters in the house. I'm not a Yachi hater. We're not Yachi haters, but we're realistic on where his ceiling is. And he's already had 2 chances at Souza. Was one for the title or was one a non-title fight? Yes. Oh,
both of them. One was
yes.
It was like New Year's Eve 2021. One was Rizin 22 or 23.
That was when he was doing. There wasn't that when he was going through like all the regional. He was going through the deep pancreas.
Yeah. No, that was before. I think.
Yeah. That's how he earned the title shot, I believe. What is it? He's been beaten by Gustavo twice.
He also beat Takeda.
Yeah, I rewatched that fight twice, and I still don't think that he beat Takeda, but that's just me. And I think you do that rematch again. I think Takeda beats him.
How about Yachi versus Suguru Ni?
Different weight classes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You said Ni was a featherweight because I thought he fought fight at lightweight, but I could be wrong on that.
I've contended that Siachi's ceiling is. I'm content with where his ceiling is now. He's no longer going to be the future Kid Yamamoto. The future.
Well, of course we know that he's not going to be a future Kid Yamamoto. He's not going to be a future Prince Nassim Hamed. He's just basically stuck.
Yeah. So, and I think you said it best, Mike. He's now a special attraction fighter. He's got a hot wife, I think, at this point, who is an actress or a voiceover artist or something. She's very well off. So yeah, he doesn't have to really fight that much for the rest of his career. And yeah, so I'm content with where he is now. Zach Zane, I guess we could say, best of luck in retirement if he chooses to do that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, many blessings and best luck to retire. In retirement, if Zach Zane's retiring and putting the gloves up, but still though, there needs to be more fighters from Hawaii coming out instead of Zach Zane, because I think they can put up a better fight than what than what Zach Zane trying to pull against Yusuke Yachi.
Speaking of retirement, Enson Inoue said that the loser of the next fight should retire. And that is Hideki Shrek Sakine.
You are just upset that Shrek couldn't hold down the swamp.
Nope. Swamp was taken over by Karate Kyushin champion Mikio Ueda, who's if I don't know if any of you saw Shrek's X-ray after this fight, but you can see the fight. You can see his nose gets broken very clearly.
Yeah, that was basically a shot clock ass whooping. Mikio Ueda knocking out Hideki Shrek Sakine in 22 seconds via referee stoppage. But still, though, even though Ueda did come into this fight, obviously 1-1, coming off the Tsuyoshi TK Kosaka loss, he got a win over somebody from South Korea in deep to come back to win this fight. His future got to be on the rise, isn't?
So far, yeah. He beat a near senior citizen. I'm not gonna take away the win that win from him, but it is, I'm gonna post if you guys can see this photo. Oh wait, no, that doesn't show the whole photo. But yeah, he looked good, and he clearly did cool karate shit. Oh, right there.
Oh my God.
This is what Shrek's X-ray looked like after the fight. So yeah, Mike, thoughts on Mikio Ueda getting his first win in Rizin?
He looked great. He beat, as you said, he beat a senior citizen, but his striking looked on point. Shrek tried to grapple him down with whatever he tried and couldn't do it and got his ass kicked. That there's not much to say about it. It's hard to tell. It's hard to say how much he's really.
So I think, again, he still has that loss against Kosaka. I'm always going to remember that. The fight that I think is the easiest to make was a fight that they should have had earlier. Well, because they couldn't bring Kalilu Gibran in. I think they should try to run back that fight. That's a little bit of a much more. That's a good test. Not someone who's very old.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
How about Ryo Sakai?
Did he win? Did he win in
Yeah.
Okay. Actually,
You know what?
But it's like I won that.
Fat Ninja Tanabe wins this fight at Super Rizin, how about you match him with Ueda next?
Oh, but no, Tanabe is fighting at middleweight. So
damn.
Yeah. I know Fat Ninja's a bit of a misnomer. Maybe 5 years ago you could do that, but not. He's now Svelte Ninja now. But no, I think we're on the right track. I mean, the other fight I really think that Rizin should have done is Sudario's brother Taka Kenshin versus Ueda. Considering that they both lost in their Rizin debuts, I think that would have been an interesting fight stylistically. I think now, I think that Ueda probably destroys Taka Kenshin. So you need to.
You think?
That's why you like if Khalil Gibran, he's got a bit of a kickboxing background and also some grappling. That's definitely a bit of a more of where to see where Ueda is now. I know that Shrek's technically a grappler, but like I think it's like okay, he's the best heavyweight grappler in Japan because it's like being the best ice skater in Jamaica, kind of. Sorry to say.
We know. We heard that before. But still, though, when it comes down to Sakine, you probably don't think he should retire. I think he should. But what's next for him?
I think he's got some pro wrestling coming up. I don't think that I mean, I don't know. Listen, he still fights like every fight is his last. He fights like a pro wrestler, and I love that. I really do. He's entertaining all the time. So I'm not opposed to him still fighting. If he retires, listen, I'm not gonna cry about it. I mean, what do you think, Mike? Should Shrek retire?
I think so. I think that if he still had a little bit of his athletic prime left, I think he would have won this fight, or at least put up a better.
I had to tell you this. Even in his athletic prime, he was still not athletic enough. He's always been slow.
Yeah, but even then, he looked like he could barely walk.
I mean, come to think of it, what are you trying to say? He was like Holyfield against Vitor Belfort or something?
Pretty much.
What do you think, Chris? Do you think that Shrek should retire? Go into pro wrestling full time?
I mean, it's up to him if he wants to retire. I don't think he's gonna. But then again, he needs to realize combat sports ain't no old person game. Combat sports is for the young folk. Huh?
Unless you're Bernard Hopkins.
Oh, yeah. Unless you're Hopkins, Mayweather, shit. Even if you're Edge, Adam Copeland.
George Foreman.
Yeah, no shit. But still, point of the matter is, when it comes down to Hideki Sakine retiring, he's gonna probably be one of those fighters that's gonna fight until his last breath.
Mm-hmm. Also during his post-fight interview, Ueda said that he'd be interested in fighting Sudario. What do you think? Or is that too early now?
It is too early.
I mean, come to think of it, any fight with either Tsuyoshi Sudario or Shoma Shibisai, that would be considered too early.
Don't forget that Shibisai, that even though Shibisai was kind of winning against Shrek did beat him in the end. I'm happy with running that fight back again, Shrek and Shibisai. Sudario seems to be always intent on facing foreign opponents, so this fight may not happen, probably will not happen. I think the one fight that you need to do or that would be great for Ueda would be running that Kalilu fight again. I don't know. What about for shits and giggles? Don't forget Samurai Mark Hunt is still there somewhere.
Oh no.
How about Samurai Mark Hunt?
I mean, come to think of it, if you probably want to see a massacre happen in that Rizin ring, don't you?
Oh, listen, I'm all for fun fights.
Mark Hunt get a victory.
Yeah, he beat Minowa Man, which is I mean, yeah.
I mean, you're only saying because the dude has 100 fights of experience.
Yeah. But listen, I think that. Do you think they have something with Ueda here, Mike?
Tough to say. He's got to fight better opposition to know for sure. But like I said, I think someone like Ryo Sakai would be a good step up. at this stage.
Okay.
But come to think of it, it's too early. I mean,
he's had 3 fights. It's you won't be able to tell off of that.
Exactly. But then again, when it comes down to Ueda, you don't want to push him to face off against Shibisai or either of the Sidario brothers too early. You don't want him facing off against foreign competition early either. You want to push him right, or he's just going to fall off the tracks.
So with that being said, we're
Put
going
him
to
in with
move on.
Sego then?
What? Sorry, what?
You put him in with Sego?
Sego Mizuguchi? Probably.
Yeah. Is Sego still fighting? I feel like he hasn't fought in quite a while.
I thought he fought earlier this year, relatively recently.
You're right. Yeah, he did. I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I only want the Caliu fight because it's somebody who's not
a jobber.
Who's not a jobber, but who's not so like cage worn, ring worn, who's been through so many fights and just is if he knocks him out, you can say, oh well, that person was old. Caliu was a little bit closer in age and not as fight worn. So I think that's at least a little bit of a semi more competitive fight in my personal opinion, or could be a competitive fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to match him to build him up carefully, I'd say Sego would be a decent option if they decide to go that way.
Gotcha. We're gonna go on to the next fight. This is Suzuki Part 2, and not related to the Hiroki Suzuki family, but this is Hiroaki Suzuki. And man, I think Mike, I told you that Taisi Nishitani wanted to knock out Suzuki, and you're like, oh, that's not going to be a good plan, and he should stick to the grappling. Well, he clearly did not listen to our podcast because the complete opposite happened. In fact, actually, the knockout, as I'm going to get it up, as I'm going to screen share it right now, was very reminiscent of the Charles Bennett Minoru Kimura knockout. Almost like, except like the fact that it happened like later in the fight, but yeah, it's virtually is almost the same. And with that being said, Mike, what do you think about Hiroaki Suzuki? This incredible win.
It's like you said, awesome win. I don't understand what the hell Taisei Nishitani was doing there.
His first game plan was working. The grappling could have worked.
I know. I mean, he had him down, but but Suzuki got up, but Nishitani was able to take him down relatively easily. So he should have kept trying that. Just trying to go a flying knee with a world-class striker who's had that type of experience with those types of strikes. And someone who can punch on top of that with those gloves. I don't understand that with your hands down, all that. Insanely. Just really stupid. I can't say anything else because I was baffled by that.
I mean, he was probably trying to think, I'm going to get a highlight reel finish one way or the other. Instead, he ended up possibly being a part of Chisel Adonis's highlight reel with that TKO loss. And as far as Hiroaki Suzuki goes, that dude, as the nickname states, is a monster. Kaibatsu in the flesh, so to speak.
Yeah, set himself up very nicely for the future with that.
I suggested Suzuki versus Suzuki. I don't know if anybody agrees with that or disagrees. I don't know, Mike, who do you think should be next for Suzuki S? Or H Suzuki, I should say.
That is a good question. Yoshiki Nakahara?
That's fine. I think that's an interesting fight.
Striker versus striker?
Sorry?
Striker versus striker?
Yeah.
He's already fought Ren and lost.
It was a close fight, in fairness. It was a close fight. Not particularly a good fight.
How about him versus, if you don't do Kleber versus Seki, why not do him versus Tetsuya Seki?
That's possible. I was going to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just trying to think of featherweights off the top of my head, and that's about it. That's what I can think of off the top of my head right now.
I think that I think him versus Chihiro would be a good fight. And I like the fact that they're both crossover fighters. That's why I'm still, and considering that Chihiro was number one contender, lost, Hiroaki's climbing up the ladder. I think personally that's a very interesting matchup to make as well. I mean, if you want to do also him versus Yuta Kubo, but I don't know. I think the problem with Yuta Kubo is that we saw from that fight is that well, he hasn't really fought any real strikers for the most part. And again, crossover fighters as well. I like crossover fighters. That's something I really enjoy. Yeah, there's a lot you could do with Mr. Suzuki. Chris, I saw you disappeared, but I just wanted to get your thoughts. What do you think should be next for Hiroaki?
I mean, to be honest, what is even next for Hiroaki Suzuki? Because whoever you put in front of him, he's just gonna mold him down, you know?
What about Taisi Nishitani? By the way, I don't know. Did any of you see where after Nishitani got knocked out, they put the camera on like Mikuru, and he just looked like he was like.
Oh yeah, he was definitely disappointed because his breaking down pet project got TKO.
I don't think he was even disappointed. I don't even think he was disappointed. I think he just was like, I just don't think he gave a shit. I think he's a case of somebody who's a good fighter who's a shitty coach. I don't even know if he was even coaching him.
I mean, come to think of it, what do you think he is, Roy Jones Jr.?
But yeah, Mike, what do you think should be next for Taisi Nishitani? My easy answer is go back to deep. You know, he's obviously the best or the least worst of the other two Mikuru Challenger Series people thing. So I think he has a home in deep until he gets a few wins, and then he could come back.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Just he's got some value because of breaking down, like I said, but he's got to build himself back up because this was a bad loss.
How about you?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, it takes a while to come back from a loss like this.
He's also in a division where he's in featherweight, which
pretty deep. No pun intended.
Yeah. What do you think, Chris? What do you think? Is he relegated to deep until he gets a few more wins?
I mean, if not deep, he would definitely need to find a home in the Landmark series. Maybe on some of these smaller shows. I mean, just get the hell away from deep because he had his whole career start there. And if he were to go back too deep so quickly, it would feel like his one and only rise and appearance so far was all for nothing.
Oh, just wanted to clarify. I didn't even say the attendance. I found the attendance just now. Attendance was 8,510 people, which is pretty good for that arena.
How many seats are in the ice arena in Sapporo?
I think 9,000 or 10,000. I don't know if they adjusted also for the entrance.
Inflation.
No, for the entrance. If that took away some seats as well, but that is pretty good, I believe.
So it was basically near capacity.
Close enough. Like, what is it called? Super no vacancy or no? I forgot.
Yeah, super no vacancy. It's called super no vacancy in Japan. It's called standing room only here.
I don't think it was standing room only at the ice arena, but it did sell pretty well.
Good solid.
In the interest of time, let's just breeze through the two kickboxing fights next, because I think we can really talk about one of them. Because I think there's definitely going to be a fight that Rizin wants to do. And Hiroki Suzuki knocked out Genji Umeno, another flying knee. And then Kimura rebounded from his first loss in Rizin years and years ago to send Daryl Koku to the Shadow Realm. I'll show that gif in a second. But quickly, Hiroki Suzuki and Genji Umeno, beautiful flying knee. I think Taisi Nishitani saw that knockout, was like, let me try to do that. And then obviously was not successful in that. But Mike, Quickly, what do you think about this win for Chihiro's little bro? I think it's his little bro, right? Big bro, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
his big bro.
What timing? Like I wouldn't have thought that he would have. I thought he was losing the fight, but it was competitive. I thought Umeno was starting to come on, but the fact that he timed that so beautifully and Umeno walked right into it surprised me. But good for Chihiro. This is the biggest win of his career, easy.
Chris, quick thoughts on Suzuki Umeno.
Oh, that's easy. Just like what I commented on the Rizin FF English account, Suzuki knocked the yabai out of Genji Umeno's Daro, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
He basically laid him out and put him in the spin cycle. I mean, shit, I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being a Chisel Adonis highlight after that. But still, though, when it comes down to that finish, that was just magical. And I think that Hiroki Suzuki just might be a future star in the making. And I think Genji Umeno just might have seen, his last troll job, so to speak, because he cares more about his entrance than he does the actual fights, it seems.
Yavai. I like how that's become his reaction to losing the cozy's become kind of like an in-joke.
Yeah,
he actually referenced in interviews. He said that like he's not happy that that's always being used for his VTRs. He says that he doesn't like it
because it makes him feel stupid.
I think it's funny. But the fight that I know I can't wait to show this one. Kimura's knockout of Lukaku. Mike, I mean, what do you think, man? This has got to be like top knockouts of the year for any big promotion.
Kimura's, like I said, his boxing is some of the best I've seen for a kickboxer. His punches were just short, beautiful, in combination, and Lukaku had no chance. Like he had literally no chance, and like the hand speed, the power, everything was just on point. He looked like he had a point. Kimura fought like he had a point to prove, and he certainly did that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another question with him.
What's the question?
About the drug test.
Oh yeah, so we'll talk about that in a second. Chris, I know you talked to Daryl Lukaku. Sure, he was confident going into this fight, but obviously did not win. What do you think of Kimura in his return to Rizin?
I mean, props to Lukaku for taking up the fight. I don't even know if I even want to upload the interview that I done with him because he was just so optimistic going into it. But let's be real. Kimura had an axe to grind. He knew that the last time he fought in Rizin was against a 29-30-2 at the time felony Charles Bennett, who just, put his ass on Dream Street in 7 seconds. So I think that Kimura, all that he wanted to do was leave with a knockout. He had Lukaku sitting sideways, rest in peace, Big Pokey, because he basically was willing to Kimura basically made Lukaku realize, hey, you may be too pretty, you may be bold and brash and all this, but still though, I'm gonna leave you leaning like a statue, tumbling like a tree, so to speak. Basically, that's what happened, and I think that Kimura really did show why he was the K1 Super Welterweight World Champion. I really think that he basically said he's going to lead the ship for Rizin Kickboxing. I think that pretty much proves the point that he's going to get Rizin Kickboxing talked about.
So yes, it came out that Kimura was drug tested as Michael was bringing up. And so supposedly, Rukia Ampo also signed the Rizin, has said that he would only fight Kimura if he passed drug tests because there's been some speculation. I don't think it's unfounded. If you look at where Kimura was, like watch that fight against Charles Bennett, and look at what he looks like then until now, like it's
Oh
like
yeah, he was definitely, he definitely built like a brick shit house.
yes, and so I don't think it's unreasonable for what Ampo is asking that like, yeah, I want to make sure you're not on steroids, or BEDs of some kind. Surprised that K1 never did Ampo versus Kimura, because that would be a big kickboxing match. And I think, I think despite the fact that it was a draw against Buakaw, I think Ampo and Kimura, that's New Year's Eve level of like a kickboxing co-main event, if that's how you go. What do you think, Mike?
You know what? You're saying Ampo versus Kimura. What about Buakaw versus Kimura?
I think so. I think that's it. That's very interesting. As I think that could be done as well. I don't know how much how many times Buakaw is going to be in though. At least with Ampo, you know that he's probably in for the long haul, much
And
more than Buakaw. And what?
And cheaper.
It's. I don't know about that. I'm not 100% sure about that. Ampo is pretty well known.
Right, but didn't Buakaw make like 300,000 for that fight at Rizin 42?
Was that
Something
yen?
like that?
Is that yen or
No, I think it was
dollars?
money. I think it was dollars. I swear to God, I thought.
I
I
guess it's possible.
I thought he mentioned that in an interview, didn't he? Where he was actually
I guess it's
saying,
possible that he did. I didn't hear that, to tell you the truth.
I could be wrong. I thought I read an article where he said he made 300K or something
Okay.
near that.
It's possible. I don't know. Again, don't know if that's true. But listen, but I also don't know how long they have Buakaw signed, to tell you the truth. But like Ampo, they have there. So I think, and that's a much more big money match to make. Presumably he passes the drug test. So I want to ask Mike, what do you think about Rizin now kind of leaning into these big kickboxing matches? You think this is a side effect of the match doing so well, potentially? And they want to you think that, mm-hmm.
But I was also going to say that, sorry for interrupting.
No, that's right.
I was going to say partially because they're already established names who can draw. That's one thing. They don't have to, they're like Ampo, Kimura, they're ready to go now instead of having to build them up slowly but surely. That's one of the things. And it's more roster depth. It's more people to fill out shows. You can in theory run more shows that way. I wouldn't recommend that, but if you have like half an MMA card, half a kickboxing card, that's in theory you can do more more events as long as you have people that or events or fights that can draw.
Well, here's the other thing I also think that Rizin has come to realize. I don't know if they recognize it internationally, but maybe this is the same thing in Japan. Kickboxing fans tune into almost all things kickboxing. MMA fans don't tune into all things MMA. So I don't know if Japanese kickboxing fans will watch everything like Rise, shootboxing, K1, whatever. But if there's any indication from beyond kickboxing, those guys watch everything that's kick related. But I know that MMA fans, and we all know this, Chris and Mike, that not all MMA fans tune into every UFC show, every Bellator show, every PFL show, even every Rizin show. So maybe they have realized that if we have higher level kickboxing, we guarantee getting these kickboxing fans to watch, tune in, or buy tickets.
Yeah, you'll draw more eyes.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to MMA fans, listen, you get the fans of those MMA fighters in most of the time, but not all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that theory, Chris? Do you think that might be it? Why they're now leaning into the kickboxing more so now than ever?
I mean, first of all, again, shout out to Beyond Kickboxing because of how they cover the sport of kickboxing. I just wish that they would cover more of the kickboxing and Muay Thai that's taking place here in this country. Too bad kickboxing and Muay Thai here is like saying, oh, let's talk about ice hockey in Jamaica. You know, that shit ain't never gonna happen. I mean, especially given how dry that the sport of kickboxing has been here in the States since Glory last had a show here. But still, though, when it comes down to Rizin kickboxing, and I mean, I get what you mean by that. Rizin has done more of a focus on kickboxing lately, but they're gonna need to make it a lot more serious than that because, yeah, they don't have Tenshin Asukawa anymore. They probably don't have Taiju Shiratori anymore. They probably won't have who was the guy that basically knocked out all those dudes? Yeah, Yoshinori Nadaka. Yeah, they probably won't have Yoshinori Nadaka for the foreseeable future. But if you think about what they got now and the stars that they have now, and that's also in conjunction with talent sharing with Rise and all that. I mean, with Rise and these other promotions, maybe not so much with the new K1, even though K1 is now trying to be K1 Global again. I think that Rizin does have a chance to be one of the major players in kickboxing, you know, if they can make this thing right. I mean, we saw what happened. Well, the lucky of us that were up to see it saw what happened when they did the match last summer. I mean, they basically helped promote that thing like nobody's business. But when it comes down to the future of Rizin kickboxing, I think if they can only push their stars the right way, because they got a lot of people that can help make it happen, then who knows what the future might hold for Rizin kickboxing. Hell, we probably might see another case where there is a main event on a future Rizin card that's headlined by a kickboxing bout.
I was going to say, Andrew, you have like cornerstones of Rizin kickboxing in general, potentially Kimura, Ampo, Ryusei, because of the knockout promotion. I know a lot of people don't know who he is, but I think I mentioned in the thread before, Kyoha from the Rise Blaze, from the Knockout Rise or Knockout Blaze event, how good his fight with Issei Ishii was. I think bring him in. There's a couple of other fighters and Knockout who are fighting in their August show that I think have upside to be factors eventually in Rizin. There's the Kasahara brothers in shoot boxing still.
There's also a member from the Inoki Bambaye show, Ryusei. Did you mention him?
I mentioned you said there's also Sho Patrick Usami's younger brother.
Yes. Mason.
So he's someone I would think Rizin would try to book in a kickboxing fight at some point too. So there's options. There's options out there.
The other option, he may not want to do it, but I think, he's going to have to think about it at least, is Ren Hiramoto. Him versus Ampo would be a big drawing match. Him versus Kimura as well. So you have, and regardless of how, listen, sometimes you may have said, oh, I want to only do MMA from now on, but clearly the more money and more a potential big win would be against Anpo or Kimura for Ren to do that stuff.
Ren versus Buakaw.
Oh boy, Buakaw is big though. I think bigger than Ren. Potentially, I wouldn't put that as like definitely doing that. I would focus on the Anpo match.
Oh yeah,
more for Ren. Yeah,
it's just throwing something out there for like long term.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And just quickly, gentlemen, Mike, what do you think? We talked a little bit about Daryl Coker before. What would you like to see next with him?
He's lightweight, correct?
Yes.
Either against Yachi or I'm trying to think of the Yachi or Bay Noah. No, he already fought. He lost to Bay. Maybe a rematch with Bay Noah. I don't know.
A rematch of kickboxing, maybe.
maybe. Or how about this? How about Lukaku versus Kimura in MMA? No, I'm kidding. That'll never happen.
No. Are you sure you want to put Philip Minoru Kimura through that punishment again?
He lasts more than 7 seconds, I'm sure.
I know that he fought him a while back, Jiri Ohara. But I think I would be more, if you want to continue the Yachi foreigner fighting thing. Technically, he is a foreigner. He's from the DRC. Was in Japan though. That still counts by indirectly as fighting a foreigner. I would say I'm not opposed to the Yachi match. For me, Chris, quickly, what do you think about Darren Lukaku?
From the way from how I talked to him, and I think I might end up putting out the interview in the next few days, maybe the next week, especially. But still, though, when it comes down to Lukaku, I just think you have to realize he has a contract that's got maybe 1 or 2 fights remaining. You got to book him carefully. But first you got to make sure he gets some good fights outside the promotion, maybe in those other fighting disciplines that he's a part of, like Lethwei and MMA and stuff like that. But, if he does do good in those other promotions outside of Rizin, I do think that if there was a fight for him to compete against, probably in MMA,
Grant
maybe Bogdanov, because he hasn't fought in a while. The last time we seen him was when he was beating up some old guy from Grachan.
How about
Darren Lukaku? Let's say if he doesn't retire, Zach Zane versus Darren Lukaku.
Oh no, that's going to probably. Tanner Lorenko. Yes, Zach Zane, you must be out your damn mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I don't think we're talking about people fighters that are centralized in certain areas. I don't think we're going to be getting Tanner Lorenko is still in Okinawa, as far as I know. I don't think we're going to be seeing him outside the Okinawa area, unfortunately. At this point.
Of course you're not, because isn't he stationed there?
Yeah, so I don't think you could do that. In the interest of time, I'm sorry I gotta cut you guys off, but I just let's talk about. I don't have anything to say about the next fight because I thought this fight was boring as fuck. Kubo defeating Karate Kinoshita. Really nothing to say about it. I think both fighters look bad. So, Mike, any quick thoughts on this fight? Sorry?
And no Sarah entrance. That sucked.
Oh, yeah. Well, she was there, though. She was there.
Yeah.
She was there, but she didn't sing.
Her music was there. She was standing up. No, she was jumping up and down in the entranceway when her husband was near the prep point. That's about the only thing we saw of her. Other than that, the fight was entirely skippable.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. Any thoughts on what you do next with Kubo, Mike? I think didn't we say before him versus Nee was that, or was that Chihiro that we said?
No, maybe him versus Nee wouldn't be bad, or him versus Nee would not be bad at all. Okay. Or maybe how about the Takeji Yokoyama, was it?
Takeji. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The guy who beat Takuya Yamamoto at Rizin 42 with the armbar.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah. Okay, I'm not opposed to. Listen, Kubo's gonna be brought in whether he wins or loses because he and his wife are weird social media stars. So, hey, listen, if you ever, there was some speculation that, originally Kubo was supposed to fight Sora Yamamoto, but Yamamoto was injured, actually, years ago, Kubo and Kimura fought in kickboxing. I don't think Rizin wants to. I don't think you want to do that fight in kickboxing. Maybe MMA. Nah, just kidding. Chris, Karate Kinoshita, did he at all impress you? Is he Rizin worthy of coming back?
No.
Back to deep? Back to deep?
Yeah, back to deep.
Mike, Karate Kinoshita, back to deep?
Yeah, same deal. He looked like crap.
Same thing. The panel agrees. Send him back to deep. I'm not even showing any highlights in that fight because there really was nothing on that fight. And so but the next fight, so it was a case of, I guess, was it Dana versus Goliath with our favorite little tiny girl Saori Oshima beating Salt with that armbar catch wrestling thing. And man, did she make it look easy, right, Mike?
Oh yeah, it's exactly like it's exactly like you said. The gap in talent was too much for the gap in size.
Exactly, especially considering the fact Saori Oshima basically just woman handled Haruka Hasegawa, aka Salt. Absolutely. I mean, even though, of course, Salt is the strawweight queen of Pancrase champion, you got your ass handed to you by a microweight and atomweight world champion in Deep. So I mean, yeah, that's nothing to be ashamed of, but still, I think that Salt.
Christian, I'll put it to you like this: this wasn't Wilfredo Gomez going up to featherweight to fight Salvador Sanchez.
Exactly.
Or if you remember when Canelo fought Bivol.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
This wasn't.
I mean, the gap in talent is like it's not to say that Canelo is obviously one of the greatest boxers of all time, but Bivol's size negated any sort of talent that Canelo had. But now you know what that means. She beat the Pancrase strawweight champion. She now deserves. Saori Oshima should fight Salt at a Pancrase show.
Are you sure that you want to see Saori Oshima move up to strawweight to face off against the strawweight queen of Pancrase champion?
No, Saori Oshima needs to face Karen.
Pravadja?
Yes, I'm joking. She absolutely needs to face the winner of Claire Lopez and
Izawa.
Oh yes, absolutely. That is the one fight so I'm not so sure why that fight hasn't happened. That is a big fight to make, Izawa and Oshima, presuming that Izawa beats Claire Lopez. I've heard so many different reasons why that fight hasn't happened. But that's definitely a fight to make. Salt. What do you do with her, Mike? Do you bring her back for another Sapporo show? Is she relegated back to Pancrase?
Yeah, both. I think you do both. I mean, she's a decent fighter, clearly, but she's nowhere near the level of Oshima. But if you put her in with a more, I guess, manageable opponent, it'll make for a better fight, not a squash.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I think you only bring Haruka Hasegawa, because I'm not calling her by just Salt. I think you bring Hasegawa back only if she wins. And then when she does win, you put her on the Landmark series, probably against maybe a lesser known foreign talent.
Well, that's the other thing. You brought up a good point. She's strawweight. There's virtually no strawweights in Japan at this point.
Exactly.
They're mostly atom weights going up to strawweights, or in Oshima's case, a microweight going up. Well, she wasn't even strawweight when she weighed in for this fight. She was atom weight. So that's the even crazier thing is that there's a problem that she's gonna fight. She'll either fight, I don't know, Karen for a third time or some atom weight who's not cutting. So
who was the girl that lost to Kana Asakura but beat Laura Fontoura in that horrendous fight at Landmark, one of the Landmark shows?
Sarami?
Why not?
I don't know if you want Sarami. She'd have to go up in weights. Would you want to take that? Actually, and I forgot to say this, and I thank Code May Day and WMMA scene for bringing this up. Oshima will be fighting at the next Black Combat versus Deep show, which is going to be in Japan. So that's already what she's doing next. But I think we do all agree she should fight the winner of Izawa versus Claire Lopez.
Izawa versus Claire Lopez. And while we're at it, Felicidades to Laura Fontoura. She's going to be having a kid soon.
So, but yeah, I don't know.
Congratulations to Fontoura. She's going to be out of commission for a little bit. I mean, I don't think you would want to match her up against Salt Hasegawa after having a kid.
Well, we're gonna move on to the next fight, which was maybe one of the most brutal. I contrast that with the Kimura knockout because that was a scary knockout, but this was maybe the most brutal knockout of the year, and that was Nii knocking out his high school friend, Tateo Ida, and I can't wait to show that. I'm gonna get this up screen shared soon. But Mike, what do you think of this knockout?
Wow, this was brutal. This was a face plant and then a soccer kick. Wow.
Well, if you look closely,
and then it was two right hands and then a soccer kick. He fell face first, soccer kick. Wow.
And then you see also, don't forget his mouthpiece gets knocked.
Yep. And did he lose a tooth, some teeth?
I think it was speculated. I don't know if that was confirmed.
Okay.
But I would not be surprised if that didn't happen.
Unbelievable. Just what a knockout. It reminded me of the Daiichi Abe Marcos Yoshio Souza knockout from last year. The right hand and then the soccer kick to the face. Except this was more brutal than that.
Yeah, Chris, thoughts on this brutal knockout?
Dude, you like bouncers. I think he just bounced his friend out of the promotion. I mean, let's just face it. Suguru Nii, as I said in the Rizin English Twitter chat, he's like the human power grid. He just shut Ida's lights out. I mean, they may be best friends. They may go about, have a beer, toss some dudes out of a bar afterwards. But still, though, Suguru Nii is that dude, despite the fact that he's 15 and 12.
I mean, what do you think? I think we talked a little bit about what should be next for Nii. Did you say, Mike, would you say that he would be a good fighter for him? Oh, Mike, did we lose you?
Sorry, I had to go to the bathroom real quick.
That's okay. Who do you think that Nii should fight next? I think you said, I forgot. Please remind me.
The bunch of people. I mean, you can do a lot of. Nii has a lot of options. He looked that good. I thought.
Absolutely.
He definitely redeemed himself from being 0-2 in Rizin from the losses to Nakamura and Sora Yamamoto for sure. And can he fight at either lightweight or welter or featherweight?
I think he'd be too undersized for lightweights. I really do. A featherweight's perfect for him.
Okay, and then I mean you can do a ton of options. You can have a rematch with Sora Yamamoto, maybe. You could have him fight Yuta Kubo. I've mentioned it multiple times. Yoshiki Nakahara is an option. Hiroaki Suzuki.
I think that's an interesting fight. Him versus Hiroaki Suzuki.
Takeji Yokoyama, the grappler from who beat Takuya Yamamoto.
Sorry, Kobe Day said something funny. He said Nii fought a karate guy with zero head movement. So by that admission, he should fight Karate Kinoshita next. But yeah, there's a lot of options for.
How about have Karate Kinoshita to fight Ren next as a comeback fight for him in MMA?
Well, because we saw that Karate Kinoshita can do grappling, and I think if he improves in the grappling, I think that's an easy win. I think he could easily beat Ren that way. Chris, what do you think should be next for Nii? Obviously he'll probably be fighting maybe Pancras, I'm guessing, in an upcoming show. But he's on a 3-fight winning streak with 3 finishes in the first rounds. Clearly, Yeah, he's rebounded from those 0-2 losses, as Mike said.
To be honest, I don't know. Because outside of his bouncer gig, I mean, there's a world full of possibilities for him, just as long as he doesn't get steered down the wrong path. I think that when it comes down to Sugaruni, after a finish like that, you immediately book him on the next available show.
Mm-hmm.
Even though,
sorry, Chris, you're breaking up, Chris. Can you
for supervisor?
Sorry, Chris.
Basically, what I'm trying to say is you book him against somebody for September or October.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that. Yeah. He's definitely earned his way to Saitama, I think. With that knockout, and it was a viral knockout because I did see people. I did see some MMA websites pick it up, talking about it, and I did see UFC fans saying, that it was a brutal knockout. That that's why soccer kicks should be banned. And listen, here's the thing: the referee.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started with those people, dude. People have the nerve to say, "Oh, soccer kicks are unnecessary," dude. If you don't watch Rizin, if you don't know the rule set of Rizin, why are you complaining about soccer kicks?
I think also the other issue was that the referee did not stop the fight. Like, even though the guy was knocked out, the referee didn't jump in until after he delivered that soccer kick. Yeah. Listen, as that referee, that's why those Muay Thai referees are so good, because they are close enough to like catch fighters from falling down the ground and banging their head. That referee should have, as soon as he saw him go timber, should have absolutely have been should have jumped in before he fell on the ground. But for whatever reason he didn't. Or they have referees on the outside. One of the referees should have thrown in the baton to stop the fights beforehand. He did nothing wrong as far as I'm concerned. And
he's supposed to be fighting until the ref stops it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're basically saying that like it was the Muay Thai Grand Prix card that happened the following day.
Mm-hmm. So Tateo Ida, bring him back. Is he rising worthy for Sapporo card? No? Chris? Okay, you, Mike?
If he gets a win or two, yeah.
Gets a win or two in Shuto. I am fine with that. Quickly, next fight, Tetsuya Seki beat Reiki Endo. Seki basically played with his food for 3 rounds. That's what that's how I consider this. That's what I characterize this fight.
But Mike, did you think that it was less boring than the Yuta Kubo Karate Kinoshita fight?
Oh, it was absolutely less boring. It was less boring. It was just because. Sorry?
I thought it was an excellent fight because Endo just wouldn't stop coming. He got dropped 4 or 5 times and showed a really good chin and recuperative powers, because I thought there were a couple times he was done.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, Seki's a great striker. And looked amazing. I think you said bring him back against possibly Hiroki Suzuki. Not opposed to that. Endo, on the other hand, what do you think? Needs to go back to Pancreas?
Yes. Yeah, but I also think that if you have another card in Sapporo, you bring him back, provided he wins 1 or 2.
Oh, absolutely. He's definitely a Sapporo. He's good. Like, anytime they go to Sapporo, provided he's not injured, they're gonna put him on the show. But yeah, I don't know who you would put him up against. I mean, I don't know. Your thoughts, Chris? Who should anybody against Endo?
I don't know. I mean, it all depends on what Rizin wants to do with him. I can't really complain.
Next fight. Unfortunately, Trent Girdham can't get a win at Rizin. Unfortunately, and got twisted. Got his back almost snapped by Joji Goto. And Mike, you talked about Joji Goto's win being incredibly impressive. So, yeah. What do you think about this win? This twister submission?
I didn't see this coming at all. I thought Girdham was going to walk through him.
We all did.
Yeah, and the thing is, I thought one of the things that I observed, like I think I mentioned in the preview for this fight that Joji Goto can punch with his left, has a good left hand. Well, he damn near knocked Trent Girdham out at the end of the first round with that left hand.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, that surprised me that Trent having boxing and I believe kickboxing experience would be that sloppy for starters. And then he had a couple of good, I thought, good guillotine attempts.
Yeah.
Goto's credit got out of him, and then he got him with the twister. Like as I said, that it was really surprising because Trent Girdham is a good fighter, and Joji Goto clearly is very underrated.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, he looked like a star. I'm just going to say it.
Chris, where does Girdham go from here?
Girdham said he wants to have a few more fights, maybe a rematch with Umeno and MMA, but
that ain't gonna happen.
Dude, yeah, we know that ain't happening, dude. But still, though, dude just can't catch a break in Rizin. I mean, I really have high hopes for the dude. I really hope that he continues to do well, but I don't want to say he's going to retire soon. He shouldn't think about retirement. The dude's under 30. The dude basically just needs a little fire lit under his ass just to drive him more. Maybe go fight back on the Australian circuit, maybe back in boxing, but still, though, I just hate seeing him take L's like this. As far as Goto goes, they got a star. I mean, if they continue to push him, if he continues to be put on these cards, he might be deemed Rizin worthy in due time. But Trent Girdham, dude, you need to practice more. And I know you probably can't see me saying this because it's dead in the night over there in Australia, probably 3 a.m. over in Thailand. But still, though, you need to focus more on your career. You need to focus more on how to get a win in Rizin before actually going back to Rizin. That's all I can say.
Well,
now,
I
what
agree.
about?
I think Goto should be brought back. Off the top of my head, I don't know. He shouldn't be relegated to Sapporo. I think he deserves a much higher level opponent. We'll see how Sorry.
How about Kazuma Kuramoto?
I was thinking exactly him. Both Shuto. They're both Shuto guys. As far as I know, never have fought each other. Girdham, I think you said it best, Chris. The Omeno kickboxing match. They're both coming off losses, and the first fight was barely a fight. So I think you can run that back in kickboxing, and then that way we'll get to see. That's way maybe that's how Girdham can finally get a win in Japan and Rizin. And last fights.
And by the way, Komei Day says that Trent Girdham is overconfident. He talked about Umeno and Goto after losing to them.
I don't. Again, but that he said he was injured going to that match with the. If you listen to his interview with Drake Riggs, he said he was injured going to that fight. So, just don't go into the injured if you have a rematch, and then hopefully you can get a win that way. And last fight we'll talk about, Aoi Kuriyama beat Marina Kumagai in a fight that I thought would be boring as hell, but thank God it was finished very quickly. Mike, your thoughts?
Marina Kumagai had her chin up, hands down when throwing that right hand. Boom, counter left, over. I would think that training at the Wirsakrek gym, she would have had a better defense, but clearly not.
Chris, your thoughts?
I thought that fight was, what am I trying to say? That fight was way different than I expected it would be, because we all had our feelings going in about this fight being the worst women's fight that Rizin's ever had, and we are all sadly mistaken that this fight ended the way that it did. I mean, Aoi Kuriyama basically came into this like a wrecking ball and wrecked Marina Kumagai's life. I mean, still though, who knew that Kuriyama had that type of KO power in her? And obviously, who knows now that Kumagai needs a lot more work than just than just beating up King Reina Miura.
Mm-hmm. Kobe Day says that Trent Girdham is a Will Chop type. If you remember Will Chop, I don't know if he even still fights now.
He still fights. He gets in where he fits in, so to speak.
Wasn't he
I don't know.
Circus?
Sorry.
Wasn't Will Chop on the last fights? One of the last Fight Circus cards?
Oh, I thought he was a one for some reason. I thought he was.
No, he was in Fight Circus. He basically has been fighting anywhere he can get a paycheck since the UFC cut him for domestic violence issues 8 years ago.
Gotcha. I don't know what you can do. Well, Kuriyama is a 125er, which Rizin doesn't really have any focus on, and Rina Kumagai is a 135er, which also Rizin doesn't focus on anymore. So I'm not so sure what you do with either of them next. Any thoughts, Mike?
Nothing, pretty much. They were just brought. She was just brought. Kumagai was just brought in because she's from Sapporo or Hokkaido, correct?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, so
but I think she trains in Tokyo. I believe she trains in Tokyo. I could be wrong though.
Okay, I mean, either way, I don't think you bring either of them back unless it's like for a special attraction type. That's about it.
Thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah, you don't bring her back. Well, if you don't bring either one of these back, it's not going to hurt my feelings. But I think that if Aoi Kuriyama gets brought back and she gets some more wins under her belt, then that would definitely make her into an underrated star, even though you would have to match her up against low-level foreign talent and low-level Japanese talent. As far as Kumagai goes, homegirl needs to go back to Deep Jewels.
I think we'll see Kuriyama back for an Osaka show, considering she's from Smoker Gym. And
she came out to the Smoker Gym national anthem.
Yeah. So that is the card. Mike, your thoughts on what are your 3 favorite finishes of the night?
One, obviously, Suguru Ni versus Tateo Iida. Or Kimura beating Daryl Lakoku. Incredible knockout. And then the third one was Joji Goto with the twister on Trent Girdham.
Gotcha. Mr. Chris, your 3 favorite finishes?
My finishes of the night, in no particular order, were Mikio Ueda over Hideki Sakine. Let's see. Philip Minoru Kimura knocking out Daryl Lakoku. And Saori Oshima submitting Haruka Salt Hasegawa. What say you, Andrew?
Man, so much. It's like a fat kid in a candy store. So I got to go with Knee over Iida. I'm going to say Saori Oshima as well over Salt. And then Joji Goto's twister submission over Trent Girdham. So
I mean, come to think of it, dude, you said a fat kid at a candy store like it's a bad thing. I thought you were really gonna say like a dude hanging out at Nathan's on Coney Island before 4th of July. But yeah. But still, though, I know we got to wrap it up. You know, Michael, how can people contact you since you've got no social media and you're only available on Discord?
On the Discord at Mike S. or at my email address, msold7@aol.com. I don't mess with social media. It's not worth it.
Understood. Andrew, do you want to give out the plugs or should I?
I'll do them quickly. Follow We Are Rizin Podcast at We Are Rizin Pod. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. You can see my work at MMAsucker.com. Focus Fights is your thing, Jay Chris. I'll let you give that plug out as well.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, all y'all need to do was, go to the Linktree page for Focus Fights, which is linktr.ee/Focus Fights, FOCUSFIGHTS, because that's where you'll be able to find all what Focus Fights does on the social media platforms, in addition to the Focus Fights audio podcast, which I don't know if you know this, Andrew, but Stitcher is about to go away soon. It's about to give way to Pandora. You might want to start promoting that more.
Mm-hmm. We'll deal with that when that happens.
I mean, obviously, I just put out. No, wait, actually, I needed to put out that Focus Fights Audio is now on Pandora, so people can check it out there. Maybe I need to put out more links for that. But still, though, point of the matter is, it's been fun. Oh, and by the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at ChrisGary92 and at ChristianGary1992 on Instagram. But still, point of the matter is, it has been a fun show as usual. Super Rizin 2 will not be until July 29th, but we hope to get our ways about putting this stuff over, because we really do love this, don't we?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And that's shaping up to be a damn good card.
Oh yeah, it is on both sides, because not only do you have the Rizin side, which unfortunately for everybody not named Errol Spence, people are going to be enjoying that card regardless of if it's going to be taking place in the shadow of a big time boxing card and a big time UFC card, both on pay-per-view. It's going to be the only free option of the night, July 29th, at least for the Bellator portion. The Fight TV portion for Rizin, we haven't even heard much about it yet. I haven't even heard any media calls
just
yet.
Before we head out, people can buy this show, Rizin 43 on Fights. I don't think they've uploaded any of the fights on YouTube yet, though. They might, but it's available for Fights if you want to buy it.
Oh yeah, it's available. $20. No, it's available. $20. Great deal and all that. But just if you want to follow more about Rizin, follow them on their platforms. They're at Rizin English _ English and Rizin _ PR on Twitter. The latter platform is on just about every platform they got. But still, though, point of the matter is, it's been fun. We hope to bring y'all more as Super Rizin 2 commences July 29th. But until then, Michael Soltz, J. Christian Gary, Andrew Benjamin saying, peace, my peoples, and one love, world, protect yourself at all times. And like the great Lenny Hart always likes to say, as we say in closing, and until then,